Hey guys, welcome to another Star Wars The Old Republic free-to-play option ability guide, this time for the Jedi Guardian Vigilance Spec. The purpose of these guides is to help you as a free-to-play player with only the 2 quick bars to figure out how can I most effectively play my class considering that limitation. You can always spend a couple dollars to get the 3rd quick bar and up, but it's not necessary if you don't want to spend the cash in that way. You can play the Vigilance Jedi Guardian almost perfectly with only the 2 quick bars, especially for leveling. And I'm going to tell you how. So let's jump into it. This is really cool. This is one of my favorite specs in the game, Vigilance Guardian. I love it. So when you first, as a Jedi Knight at level 1, load into the game, you're going to have on your quick bar Strike, Slash, SWtOR form, Quick Travel, Introspection, and Force Might. The first thing you should do is remove Quick Travel. Quick Travel is an ability which you only need once in a while, and you can get at it anytime you want by pressing P, which brings up your ability list, and then you can find it in there. This is how I do it. I have all the quick bars, but I do it this way. Many other people do it this way. It doesn't need to take up a slot. It is just used to travel to a faraway place every once in a while. After you've done it a few times, it'll just click and you'll be able to press P and get the thing in like a matter of seconds. Doesn't need to be on there at all. You can also take SWtOR form off. The Jedi Guardian and Jedi Sentinel each have 3 forms. Think of them kind of like karate versus kung fu versus judo versus, some other kind of martial art. They just are a form of lightsaber mastery. It's a particular style of lightsaber fighting. And each spec of the Jedi Guardian is really dependent on one of these. You don't need to worry about the other 2, and also you only are ever going to have that one on all the time. In high-level PvP, some people might swap between 1 or 2 of them, but that's a whole other thing. We're worried right now about just leveling, just playing the game, and if you do any PvP, you're not going to do any high-level PvP for quite a while because you're just starting leveling up. So you can just turn it on and don't take it off the bar. Don't worry about it anymore. If you ever need to get at it again for any reason, it's in that same menu. Just press P. You can find it in there. Force Might should also come off. This one's slightly annoying. Force Might is a buff. It increases your stats for 60 minutes or until you die. It's the kind of thing which you use whenever you come back to life after dying or when it runs out every 60 minutes. So if you die a lot, it might be annoying to have to be pressing P every time to pull up the menu and activate it from there. But hopefully you won't die a lot, and it's not common to die all the time in this game, and so you should be using it maybe once every 45 minutes or every hour in the best case. And so you can just put it on that P menu and don't even worry about it. All right, so with that having been said, how are we going to go about, as we level up, making sure we can fit every skill we're going to get along the way onto these bars? Here's how I am going to tell you how to do it. I want you, as you level up, to train everything you are offered. Train every single ability that you are offered, and what I'm going to do is tell you which ones to take off when you need extra space. So for example, the first one I'm going to tell you to take off when you need extra space is Riposte. Riposte is an ability which is for the defense spec of the Jedi Guardian. As a Vigilance spec, you do not need it. You should not use it. At least not once you start to get your Vigilance spec skills. It's the kind of thing that at low levels, level 5, level 10, level 12, maybe you'll use it, and that's fine because you're going to train it. It's going to be on your bar. However, when you're up at level 35, whatever it is that you first run out of space on your quick bar and you have something else you need to fit, by that time you're not going to need it anymore for the Vigilance spec ever, so just take it off. The next one I'm going to tell you to take off, is when you learn SWtOR and Guard. These are tank abilities. These are for the defense spec. Again, you don't need to worry about them. There are some uses that you could theoretically use for them, but in leveling, it's not something you're going to worry about at all. So just take them off, save 2 quick slots. It's fine. You don't need them. In fact, you can remove these from your quick bar as soon as you train them, or you can choose not to train them if you like. Another one to take off, Heroic Moment. Heroic Moment is this skill which you are going to need to use, but very infrequently. It doesn't need to be on your bar. Really, all it's for is it gives you a little boost in survivability, very temporarily, when you find that you're in a situation where you've bit off more than you can chew. It's really just for, like, if you have a boss fight and you die, and so you come back to life and you go and you try the boss fight again and you die again, and then you say, you know what, I need something extra. Well, in that case, go ahead. Swap this onto your quick bar just for that fight. Like, pick something that by that time you'll realize I can get by without this for one fight, and put Heroic Moment on there instead. And you will use it, hopefully win the fight, and then go ahead and take it off and put the other thing back on. Taunt and Taunt, and Challenging Call. Taunt and Challenging Call. Take those off as well. Those are skills, again, for the tank spec, defense spec. There's not very much reason at all for you to use them ever in PvE as a Vigilance Spec Guardian, and certainly not in leveling, so just take them off. Another one, Cyclone Slash. This is AoE. I have never used this on my Guardian in any spec. It's one of these kind of skills that you have, but it's not, I mean, you can use it, but it's not necessary for your spec at all. It's not necessary for any spec, and there's better options in Force Sweep, so I wouldn't even worry about it. Just take that off, and you'll be totally fine. Another thing is, the only thing I'm going to specifically tell you not to train are these 2 abilities, Pommel Strike and Opportune Strike. See what this says here? It says punches a target dealing this amount of damage to weak and standard targets and this amount of damage to strong targets. It does not do any damage to elite and champion targets. And it says only usable on slowed or immobilized targets. Every class has this kind of skill, which is only useful on stunned enemies, which are kind of lower tier enemies. I've never trained these on my characters. I trained it on like the first character I had ever, and then I realized their limitations and said this is not worth the credits. And I know a lot of other people feel the same way. I mean, there's not much use for these abilities. Some people might like to use them, but I think those people are few and far between, and when you're trying to conserve space, these things are like no sacrifice at all to give up. Just don't even train them. They're not worth your credits. They're not worth a spot on your quick slot bar. All right. A couple other notes. 1, Sprint. Where is it? Sprint, you're going to get at level 15. This is another set it and forget it ability. Once you get it, turn it on, then take it off the bar, never to worry about it again. You can get at it by pressing P if you need to. It is just going to help you to move more quickly while out of combat, which is great. But there's no need whatsoever to have it on your quick bar. It is working for you all the time while not being on there. So that's basically it. I think if I forgot to tell you to remove SWtOR as well, as soon as you don't need it. In fact, you're going to get Shien form as a Guardian, in which case you'll not using SWtOR anymore. But I think I told you to take SWtOR off from at the very start of the game, because it's a set it and forget it, just like Sprint, just like SWtOR, just like any of those toggle type abilities. So if you do that, train everything, but remove those particular abilities, which are listed in the link below, so that you can read them and have a reference there, you should be fine. You should be able to fit everything. So now let's go into a build. This is a build which I made. It's the Vigilance Guardian build based around the idea of having free-to-play in a couple of different ways. It's pretty similar to any build that I might suggest anyone use, free-to-play or not. But there's a few places where I said I think it would be cool for a free-to-play player to have this particular setup. And I'll explain that when we get there. So here's what you should do. At level 10, when you first hit level 10, and you get your first points to put into your tree, you're going to put a point in Improved Sundering Strike. At level 11, Improved Sundering Strike again, and now that's full at 2. Level 12, Single Saber Mastery, Single Saber Mastery again, and at 14 again. See how this works? Now level 15, Perseverance, and Perseverance again, and then level 17, 18, and 19 go into Accuracy. The way this works, by the way, is that in any one of these trees, every time you have 5 points, it opens up the next level. So this level's locked off right now because I've spent 10 points, 5 to get to this tier, 10 to get to this tier. Any other 5 points I spend anywhere in here will let me get up to here. So now we're on level 20, and we're going to take Xian form. This is an ability, which means when you take it, it's going to show up on your quickslot bar. But it's one of those forms which is always turned on. So once you train this at level 20, make sure it's turned on, and then remove it from your bar. You don't need it to be on there anymore. Next, get Burning Blade. Now, I will tell you something about Burning Blade at the end when I am done explaining the build. I'll tell you something about it for you to think about. Then do Unremitting, 1 and 2 points. This is one of the best skills in the game, certainly for PvP, that is. But it will have its uses in leveling too. It's really an incredible skill. It makes you immune to CC after you force sleep, which you're a Guardian. You'll do that all the time. Okay. Next, go and take Effluence. Makes your AoE attack free, which is great for leveling because you always want to be using that AoE attack on all the random enemies that you're fighting. Next, pick up 3 points in Vigilance, named after the tree. Makes your abilities activate more quickly, more frequently, that is. Next, take Narrowed Focus. At level 30, you're going to take Overhead Slash, which is an ability. You're going to put that ability onto your quick bar. It should be on there when you first get it, but in the event that your quick bar is full and you know it doesn't automatically show up, this one has to go on there. It's part of the Vigilance spec, so remove one of the things that I mentioned and put this on instead. Next, you're going to get Burning Purpose, 1 and 2, and then Force Rush, 1 and 2. Moving up, put 3 points into Zen Strike on levels 35, 36, and 37. Put 2 into Sundering Throw, and then take Plasma Brand, which is, again, an ability. It'll go on your quick bar. These two, Overhead Slash and Plasma Brand, are abilities you get just for being a Vigilance Spec Guardian, and you're going to want to use them. So put them on your quick bar. Make sure they're there. Next, we're going to take Momentum down here, 2 points, and then 2 points into Victory Rush. Then we're going to move all the way over here and put 2 points into Master Focus, 3 into Insight, and we'll go and take Commanding Awe at level 50. So, let me just explain a few things here. One, it is kind of an odd build, 4, 32, 5. You usually see like 5, 31, 5, or like, 7, 31, 3, or 3, 31, 7, that kind of thing. But what I would normally be doing is designing a build which is more kind of adaptable to PvP and stuff, and so would have gone all the way up here to get solidified forms. But because I'm concerned with you leveling right now and doing just flash points at lower levels and things, I think that this will be better. And this is a little bit of extra defense, which is always good. because you're trying to stay alive as much as possible so you don't have to res very much, especially as a free-to-play player. So one more point in commanding is pretty good. Now, the one thing I wanted to mention to you about this is, again, this is not necessarily the best build. It's not the only build. It's a vigilance build, which I think will work for you. But I'm going to point out one thing that there's going to, if you read about Vigilance Spec Guardians, you're going to see some disagreement about this amongst different people. This skill, Burning Blade, and this one, Burning Purpose, what they do is they cause these attacks that you have to do additional damage over time. What they mean, in other words, this causes Blade Storm to do additional damage over time. So Blade Storm is an attack you have which does a lot, which always does a certain amount of like damage. When you get these 2 points, it's going to cause Blade Storm to do additional damage over time. So in other words, after the attack for 6 seconds, it's doing an additional amount of damage. Here it says 133, but that's not necessarily taking into account the stats that you have. That's just an example number based on some formula that this website's using. Same thing with this one. This is causing damage over 6 seconds after you use Overhead Slash. See what it says, the examples it's giving you is this one. It says it might do 1528 damage when you use the attack. And then by picking this up, it's going to also cause it to do an additional 200 damage over 6 seconds. So here's the disagreement some people have, just so you're aware. If you think about these numbers, and these are just example numbers, but they are proportional. So it says 1528 damage instantly, like in 0 seconds when you hit the key. And then another 200 over 6 seconds. So like another 30 damage a second, which isn't kind of very much. So there's people who say that these points and these points are not worth it. I disagree, and there's plenty of other people who disagree too. I think even though it's a small amount of additional damage, it's still additional damage, which is ticking away, and damage over time, in this case burning damage, is not mitigated by armor, so the enemy's armor doesn't matter. I think it's absolutely worth it, and the spec is really designed for damage over time to be happening. But it's just so you're aware. I mean, there's different people's takes on the builds and different ways to do it. So if you're curious, you might look that up and say, gee, maybe I should be getting something else instead. And you can do that. There's plenty of things that you could do. So but this is just a build which I think should work, and it's very similar to the one I would use myself. So that's all. I hope that you'll check out some of the other videos, which will discuss some of the other specs and the other classes. All of them, in fact. I'm doing every single one. All 8 classes, all 3 specs per class. So there's gonna be 24 total videos, and then 48 if I make the specific videos for the Empire side, which I plan to. So that's all, guys. Check the text link to see this stuff referenced in easy to read text, and have fun.